After the popularity of the little thing I did on unknown heroes of fitness, a lot of people ask me if I talk more about history. Well, I'm honored to. I think one of the things you'll notice in my writings and my workshops is I've been doing this a long time. I've been lifting weights since 1965. I started reading Strength and Health magazine, I think in 67 or 68. Uh, and I fell in love with the magazine instantly. And one of the things I began to pick up when I was reading it in 67, 68 was this name from Pacifica, California kept popping up called Dick Notmeyer. And Dick was a huge influence on my career, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about right now. It was interesting because when you hear of somebody and or your mind starts to run off in all these different directions. And one of the things I want you to do today is realize that the lessons I learned from Dick Notmeyer, and there are far too many for me to cover in a short amount of time, was in every aspect of life. But you have to also remember that the famed Pacifica Barbell Club, the PBBC, which I'm such a proud member of. I would put that and being a Utah State Aggie and a South City football player as my three greatest accomplishments in my life in sports. And it's just an honor to be able to talk about Dick. I talk to him about once a month still. He's still lifting weights. He's still doing well. I love the man. So let's talk. So I was a fairly good high school football player, American football, and I was a good discus thrower. I weighed 162 pounds. I threw discus 170. During this presentation, maybe we'll show a few pictures of my career. But it was pretty obvious to me that to be an elite discus thrower, I was going to have to get a little bit bigger than 162. The interesting thing is this. Coach Mon told me this, my coach at Utah State University. If my coach would have contacted him with my distance and with my size and my academics, he would have given me a full ride right out of high school to go to Utah State. Now, I don't know if I'd have done as well, but he was famous for taking undersized guys and making them national champions and international quality throwers. But that's a story for another, parallel universe. Well, when I went to junior college, I knew I needed to learn the Olympic lifts. All throwers did the Olympic lifts. Al Feuerbach, the great shot putter, he was also a national champion in the Olympic lifts. I knew I needed to learn them. They were my secret weapon. So I went to Skyline College, and by the way, we'll also have a companion PDF to go along with this on the site called, Dick Notmeyer and the PBC or something like that. So you can read more of the details if I forget anything. We had a guy named Case Tunzing, who was one of the first people to really push park horses in the United States. And he taught me the Olympic lifts, but he said, I can only take you so far. And he noted there was a place in the city called the Sports Palace. Now, the Sports Palace is, of course, Jim Schmitz's gym, which was a world-class facility. Anybody went there at least once, and of course, their team was amazing. I would take third place in a meet and think I was terrible because I lost to future medalists at the Olympics, Mario Martinez, and another great American lifter, Ken Clark, and I would take third and go, I'm never getting better in this sport. So we were a pretty good team. Pacifica Barbell Club would lift with the Sports Palace at big meets, so our points would go to them. And so I went up to the Sports Palace on my Honda 200 motorcycle, pulled up, went in, and I just said, can I look around? And the guy said, you're an Olympic lifter. I go, I'd like to learn. He goes, well, nobody's here today because we have a weightlifting meet tomorrow. So I drove back home, got on my motorcycle that Saturday morning, got there, and the meet hadn't started yet. There was just a bunch of those church chairs sitting around. And I sat down and kind of waited. And Jim Schmitz thanked Dick and his wife, Joy Notmeyer, who, of course, Joy is just as important throughout this whole story, for all the help they did today. And I looked over and I saw Dick and Joy, and they were over here. Well, I watched them lifting, and I was fascinated by it, and I thought I could do okay in it. And then I had to go to the bathroom, and literally later, Dick was coming out of the bathroom, and I was going in, and we kind of bumped, and I said, hi, I'm Danny John. And, of course, Dick was just wonderful. He told me about the gym, and he said, and I asked him, and of course, my thought was, it was this palace, It's kind of like when people come to my place and see my gym. And I thought it would change my life, which it did. And Dick said, there's one thing, you have to pay your dues. And I thought, I don't know what that is, run up a hill or, I don't know, take a shot in the chest or something. And he goes, it's 25 cents a week. So Dick trained me. Well, in the 2 years I was in junior college, he profited, almost $27 off of me, maybe, during my junior college years. And I drove up there on the Monday. He told me to be there at 2:45. I pulled up, and it was a house, 790 Moana Way, and it was a house. And he said, just open the garage. And I opened the garage, and there was this really nice car there, and nobody else. And I kind of stood there, and Dick came down the stairs, and he said, oh, there you are. And then he was just, Dick worked mornings, so early in the mornings. He used to take about a 3-hour nap every afternoon. And he used to do all these yawns and stuff. So that was my first meeting. We went in. I trained with him for a while. Pete Hoffman, who had lifted in the meet on Saturday, came in for a light workout. And then we were there about 2 hours just doing basic stuff. And then Dick said, do you want to learn the Olympic lifts? And I looked at the clock, and I knew I had to get home. And I said, yeah. And so we did some very poor snatches. Well, so the first time I'd ever saw a snatch live was Saturday, and on Monday I was learning how to snatch. 3 weeks from that Saturday, that first Saturday, I had my first weightlifting meet over in Oakland, and I went 6 for 6 with all PRs, and I snatched body weight for the first time. And I clean and jerked 187. I snatched 187 and clean and jerked 231. I'd already put on some weight. There'll be more on that. And of course, within 9 months, I would snatch 231 and clean and jerk 308. I made pretty rapid progress. Dick's program was simple. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we snatched and clean and jerked. Pete liked to clean and jerk first, so I always snatched kind of tired. And on Tuesdays and Saturdays, we did front squats and then jerks. And that's it, folks. Oh, we did some other stuff. Later, I really got into doing a lot of hyperextensions because I had hurt my back just being a thrower and football player. And my spinal rectors just got massively, weirdly thick from all those hypers. We worked out about 2.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it cost us 25 cents. How will I ever repay that? I just don't see how I'll do it. Very quickly, I began to get overtrained, but I do have to say one quick thing. In the first 4 months I was with Dick, I put on 40 pounds of body weight, from 162 to 202. And then it kind of stalled after that because I was also competing for Skyline College in track and field. And Coach Lahati, head track coach at Skyline, who just recently passed away, he believed that if a little was good, a lot was better. And he would have us do, for example, as throwers, we would run from 1 to 3 miles in some training sessions. We had to run 10 200-meter hills one time, 10. He had this one thing where he had us do jumps, and then we did a bunch of jumps and then went on this massive stair thing. And I really began to get some injuries. My patella tendons were just screaming all the time because all the running and the throwing and the lifting. But that's okay. Once things came around track season, because of the schedule we had, which was basically gone all the time, I could only lift 2 to 3 times a week, and my body adapted. And it was interesting because I was the only freshman at the California State track meet that year, and I don't think any of this could have happened without Dick's help. Dick was a master storyteller. The guy was hilarious. My favorite things, and if you've heard me talk, you know this, he always had that story. Oh, I knew a guy like you. So no matter what problem you had, there was a story, and he'd wiggle his finger at you and tell you, oh, I had a guy just like you. And whether it was not enough body weight, girlfriend problems, money problems. And the answers always seemed to be more front squats and more protein. I kid, but only a little bit. We had some silly stuff that we would do. We had contest. Dick loved contests. So, and then we keep the names up. So we had an incline sit-up bench like this, and there was only 2 numbers on it. One was 200 reps, 200 incline sit-ups. That's amazing. And the second number was 2,100. The next time you get a chance, do 2,100 incline back to back to back. I'm proud, I think, to still have the records for body weight for reps. I was the first person to break the 50 rep barrier. I did it with 225, so it must have been probably my sophomore year in college. And I did it for 50. And now, of course, that's the basis of Mass Made Simple because it did so much for me. Oh, we had every kind of bench press, deadlift, squat, all the standard stuff. But then dips. We had a dip chart. We had a pull-up contest. The dips and the pull-ups were generally the lighter guys would win those. We also had a very fascinating one called the Jump Out of the Window Club. So the window was, I don't know, maybe a yard, a meter off the ground. And it was a normal window. So what you had to do is you had to have the ability to jump and then make yourself very small and to jump out of the gym onto the grass on the other side. If you just jumped and you stayed vertical, your forehead would catch the wall, and it would be really bad to see. So you had to kind of go pop up and get out that way. I don't know why we did it, but I tell you one thing, that was a fun club to watch people try to join. Dick had such great ways to explain things to people. We had a jogger come up one time, a runner, and he said, I don't understand why you do all this weightlifting. And Dick said, we had about an 8, maybe 9 foot ceiling. And Dick said to the runner, jump up and touch the ceiling. And he, honestly, it was embarrassing. He probably got this much. Then he walked over to me, handed me a 45-pound plate and said, Danny, touch the ceiling. Boom, touched, whacked it, came back down. And he looks at the guy and goes, that's why we lift weights. It's a nice story about my brother Phil. My brother Phil, and for those you know, if you read my work, he died tragically last summer. My brother Phil came to one of my weightlifting meets one time, and my last clean and jerk was with 341 pounds. Since it was a junior competition, I was the last lifter. Well, you don't see that a lot anymore. The 18 and 19-year-olds clean and jerking that kind of weight. But I clean and jerk 341, and it's kind of a tradition. You leave the bar so people, when they take their pictures, you have the 113-pound 12-year-old, his pictures with 341 pounds. And at the end of it, Dick walked over to my brother Phil and he said, thanks for coming. It meant a lot to your brother. And Phil was like, if you knew Phil, he mumbled. And he goes, just try to pick up that bar. Phil walked over and all he could do was make the bar bend. And Dick said, I don't know this. Dick told me the story, and Dick said that he goes, your brother's pretty strong, isn't he? And Phil goes, yeah, I guess he is. So that was it's a nice memory. That's the thing with Dick. Just about everything is just a nice memory. And he had rules for everything. For example, I'm going to teach you the official Pacifica Barbell Club salute, okay? So it has to be done a certain way, okay? You have to puff out your chest as broadly as you can, and then you got to keep your arm tight like this, so it makes your bicep even look bigger. So when we would chalk up at meets, he taught us to do this for the crowd, which I always thought was hilarious. One of his athletes, who was in something called the Red Star Club, which is something you don't want to be in, anybody who had never been a member of the gym who died got a red star next to his name. And his name was Joe Vega. And in a powerlifting contest, he was like this. And Dick was sitting next to a young Austrian boy by the name of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger commented to Dick, that guy's got huge arms. But let's review the trick again, okay? And then your job when you saw another member of the club is to take your eyes, and you have to look off in the distance, off in the future, and then give the single bicep salute. One time I was coming in to California. It was something, it might have been right around the time my mom died, and Dick volunteered to pick me up at the airport. And as I'm coming off back in the day before 9/11, you could basically get off the plane, and I look over and I see Dick in the middle of the airport. I just love the guy. He was, before the Nationals one time, he said, hey, Danny. I go, yeah. He goes, big thing about this meet. And I'm like, I'm expecting here we go, baby, win one for the Gipper. He goes, yeah, we're going to film it. Okay. Yeah, so don't adjust yourself. Well, I would have probably been fine, except he said, don't adjust yourself. Some of our audience might not get this yet, but so I'm getting out for my big clean and jerk at the Nationals, and I look over and I got the chalk and I pull it, and I reach down and I make a slight adjustment to my stuff. Well, of course, Dick has that on film, and when we all got together for the Sports Palace, these guys just kept, back in the day you could go movies back and forth back. They must have showed that for 35 or 40 minutes. Dick's insights on nutrition were way ahead of the game. He pushed protein, pushed clean eating. He hated things like anything that was white food, white flour was all diseased foods. He was very much in the similar vein as Strength and Health magazine or Jack LaLanne, that these modern foods were out to kill you. And it's funny because, as I'm saying this today, if I could just say one summary of what's wrong with most people's diets, I'd say these modern foods that are trying to kill you. He was a big believer in vitamins and minerals, especially minerals. And of course, my friend Brian Oldfield, the great shot putter, world record holder, he also believed in the biggest bang for your buck was minerals. So I was a big believer in legal supplements for my whole career, and I still am. He was adamant against anabolic steroids. He said that all it did was push you ahead 2 years, but you didn't get the lessons that you should learn in those 2 years. And then he also mentioned once you take them, most of the people he knew just went, there you go. And that was good. And I'm glad I had such a good, strong role model against drugs, because if you read some of my writing, very often it would be like, I lost another friend this week from my competitive years. A lot of my buddies who went on a certain route are either dead or badly crippled now. And that's something I don't want to be at my age. I want to chase my grandkids down. Dick was there at a time in my life where I needed him. We were having some home trouble today. I write about it in the book 40 Years with the Whistle, and honestly I don't want to repeat it now. And I don't want to break open my heart when I'm doing a video, because I don't want to get all misty-eyed. But it was a tough time in my life, and Dick's narrow beam focus as a coach really helped me. He was great at cueing. He had a phrase, pull it high and back to you. Now what it meant was, when I snatched or clean, pull the weights high and bring them on top of me. But he would say it in such a way that it just made me calm and ready to go. He told me once there's 3 secrets to being a great Olympic lifter: leg strength, pulling power, and then a tranquil mind, a calm mind. Well, that was the last of that when I met him. I did not have a tranquil mind. I had monkey brain. I had a bad case of squirrel. I had a bad case of monkey brain. I would get way too excited for competitions, and I would put my expectations through the roof. Dick taught me to come in, and when it's time to go, go. I still carry those lessons of life today. Dick was just a great man. He was very good as a mechanic. Sometimes I'd pull up my motorcycle and he'd say, "Hey, Danny," and he'd point something out, and then by God, while I was doing my front squats, he would fix the issue with the motorcycle. I have to give him credit for turning me from a good high school athlete into a Division I MVP. It's on Dick. Of course, the stories never really end, our travel stories to the Nationals and things like that. There was always something. We're coming home from the flight one time, and this is a true story. I wish I could make it up, but one of the stewardesses found fancy with me. She thought I was swell, and of course I was an 18-year-old, 19-year-old idiot. I didn't know any better. And Dick, it was such a point of pride with him that his athlete was getting picked up on a flight attendant, and she kept bringing me alcohol, which I would hand back to some adults who were with us. I'm not going to say who it was. And she kept bringing me booze, but I didn't know how to say it nicely, but I'm 18 and I didn't drink. That's one of the things I'm also proud with. I didn't drink alcohol really until I was 21, which makes sense. But he was just, oh my God, he told that story about 100 times in the next 2 weeks about this really attractive stewardess chasing me around, which wasn't completely true, but good enough, and I liked the story. Dick was a joy. The thing I liked best about Dick is that he would read an article or he would hear something at a workshop. He would come back, he would tinker with it, he would work on it, he would make it a little better or a little bit more adaptable for our needs, and I continue to use the same model today. It was interesting, it wasn't until I met Dave Turner, my coach here with Hercules Barbell Club, that I discovered that the way I was taught poles and hang work is the way Bob Benarski did it. Well, I found out later on because I asked Dick. I go, Dick. He goes, yeah, the Barskis. Yeah, the Barsky cleans, the Barsky pulls. It basically, if you're interested, it's when you're doing a repeated movement like a hang clean or a pull, you lean back slightly to get your shoulders back again, then you slide forward. You do the lift, you catch the bar again, lean back, reset your shoulders, and do it again. It's a simple thing. The greatest lesson I learned from Dick, one of the great lessons I learned from Dick, is that the way you compete is the way you should practice. So every time we touched the bar in training, we would compete with the bar. So if I was doing a snatch with 45 pounds, which is just the bar, I would take it, I'd lift it, I'd go into the deep position, I would stand up, and I would bring the bar down according to the rules of the game. No power movement, no half movements, no cheat movements. Everything was focused on what you were going to do in competition. This lesson kept repeating in my career. See, I'm a big believer in what's called the whole part method. You teach the whole thing first, you break it into parts, you come back to the whole, and every time you break it into parts, you're always kind of constantly trying to fix what thing fell apart in the whole. Well, Dick's methods were actually whole part, but he focused more on the whole than anybody I've ever seen in my life. So when we lifted meets, we knew what we can do. I was obviously, because of my athletic ability, Dick saw that I needed to be pushed a little bit harder. On a Saturday weightlifting meet, I might go 6 for 6 or 5 for 6 with all personal records, and on Monday we'd come in and Dick would ask me to try to updo those numbers. Yeah, it was a lot of training. Yeah, it was a lot of work. But the upside is this, folks. Because of Dick, all my education is free. Because of Dick, all my kids' education is free. Because of the lessons he taught me. I can't thank the man enough. He changed my life. And I don't think a day goes by where I don't miss the Pacifica Barbell Club, which was a back room with 3 barbells and a dusty mat and a dusty platform. That's all it was. But it made champions. I hope you learned something today, and I'll have more in the future. I'm Dan John. Thank you.